Okay, hello YouTube and YouTube subscribers. Today I'm going to be doing a video on dietary requirements of fish. Now, if you're going to be doing a community tank, you should generally not have the tank composed mainly of specialized feeders, especially if you're going to have a large amount of different fish in that tank. For example, say you have 6 or so species. What you do want to is you want to try to get a fairly good quality flake. I usually don't buy very expensive flakes. I use, I think it's Tetramin. I like Tetramin flakes. I've been using them for about 10 years or so. I've tried Wardley flakes, and all the fish I've had never liked Wardley flakes, so I don't think that's a pretty good fish food company. But there are more expensive stuff you can also try, like New Life Spectrum and stuff like that. Now, when I fed my fish, I'd use the core flake as a main food, and then over the years I'd supplement their food with stuff, say like tube fixed worms, bloodworms, mosquito larvae, let's see, self-caught earthworms, also, what was it, freeze-dried krill, which I'd crumple up or leave whole depending on the size of fish. Now, the problem with feeding the fish is that it can be very complicated. So, for example, you got to research every single fish that you have to make sure it's getting the appropriate food. Now, most aquarium fish are kind of omnivorous to an extent, and that's why most good quality general flakes tend to work. But then if you want to do something like specialized, say for example, say you want to keep pacus, for example, you can't just feed those guys general flakes. You'd have to feed them vegetable matter and vegetable-based flakes and vegetable-based pellets. For example, in my 75-gallon tank, the main food supply for fish right now is just flake food, and as well as the duckweed in the tank. Some of the fish eat that. But for the pleco, his main food that I provide for him is he gets 2 algae wafers every 2 days, and he also eats some shrimp pellets. You know, those aren't necessarily for him, but he still eats them. Well, the shrimp pellets are mainly for pictus cats, but both the pleco and pictus cats, they also eat some of the flakes I had. As for with the pleco, for example, you can't keep feeding the common pleco flakes or shrimp pellets because they can't process high protein diet particularly well. That's the reason why I try to make sure that his main food that he's getting his nourishment from is the algae wafers, as well as any algae in the tank. So, particularly, I could keep going on and on about the types of diets that fish have, but it can be very complex. For example, if you keep African cichlids, for example, say you're keeping rock-dwelling cichlids from the African rift lakes. Most of those species, they can't process animal fat particularly well. So, for example, the mbunas generally prefer to eat algae in the wild, and they can eat tropical fish flake quite well, but they can't digest stuff like worms and just large fish particularly well because it's too much fat and too much protein for them to process. So when you're doing your tanks, try to find the generalized diets of the fish that you have, and if you're doing specialized tanks, you gotta do a lot of research to make sure fish gain adequate food. So thanks for watching. Please rate, comment, and subscribe.